Hi everyone. Just recently I had a chance to play around with the Cutty Red, and I wanted to share some of that footage with you and to voice what some of my thoughts and opinions are about this vessel. I have to say as a disclaimer right up front that this is an early look at this ship, and at the time that I was making this recording it wasn't entirely finished yet. So there's some things that are obviously still being worked on, like for instance they haven't completed doing a lighting pass on it, some of the textures have to be updated, and the interior section is missing a few assets. But there's enough here to get a good idea of what the final product will be, and it allows you to get a chance to get inside of it and to see how the interior space is going to be laid out. I'm going to start by going over the exterior look of the Red. The body has a few physical alterations done to the side doors and the turret, but its basic overall chassis design, shape, and dimension are all the same as the Cutty's. The two sliding doors that you'd find in the Cutlass Black have been replaced with a set of lateral-facing docking collars. This is going to allow it to be able to pull up alongside another large vessel that has docking capabilities, or to go right up to a space station and directly connect to it. And the top turret has been replaced with a directional searchlight that's controlled by the pilot. This is a neat option, and after it was unveiled, the devs were immediately flooded with suggestions on how to make it even more useful and user-friendly. I personally think this is a great option for the co-pilot to use so they can physically highlight things that they've spotted with the searchlight. This will allow the co-pilot to be able to give directions like, hey, look over there, and to be able to point directly at what they're talking about. This could help to eliminate a lot of confusion and allow operators to better coordinate their efforts. This level of coordination could be necessary for search and rescue operations where people's lives are going to be in danger, and there may be a limited amount of time that you'll have to rescue survivors in. And the less time that you spend arguing over where to look, the better. The only real difference between this ship and the other variant is the spiffy red paint job that's covered in graphics. It seems to really go out of their way to let you know that it's a rescue ship, and absolutely, without a doubt, is not secretly being used to run drugs. Okay, let's move on from the exterior and have a look at its interior, starting with the flight deck. The flight deck looks exactly the same as the Cutlass Black's, which includes the seating arrangements for the pilot and the co-pilot, which has them placed one in front of the other on seats that elevate up into the canopy after you get into them. I really don't see any reasons to go over it in any more detail than that, because if you've already been inside of a Cutlass Black, then you already know what to expect from the Red. The area just behind the pilot seat consists of the same amount of dimensional space that the Cutty has. But there are a few differences, and unfortunately at the time I was recording, this is where a majority of the unfinished issues with the ship could be found. For instance, one wall was completely missing its geometry, and the wall opposite to it seemed to be missing several of its assets, which I'm sure they're going to be added in very soon before it's finally released into the PU. What they seem to be doing is replacing a lot of the things that were found in the Cutty, like the gun racks and stuff like that, with additional equipment storage and hopefully a place to store a few EVA suits. The back wall to this room remain unchanged with regards to where the bunk beds and the exit are located, but if you're facing the aft section of the ship, they'll be located on the far left, and the exit door is going to be located on the right. But in the middle area where the old entrance to the turret used to be has been replaced with a bathroom and a sink. If you move on from here to the middle section of the ship, you'll find a second pair of bunk beds that's been tucked into a niche and two medical beds. As described in the medical gameplay doc, the medical beds are going to come in 3 tier levels. Tier level 3 beds are going to be used to recover from minor injuries and can heal damaged limbs. Tier level 2 beds will be capable of healing serious injuries such as multiple limb bleed outs or ruined limbs. The best thing is going to be a tier level 1 bed, which will be able to heal players who have had a near-death experience or a fatal injury. This type of bed is also going to be used as a spawn point. So far, the only ship that's confirmed to have this tier level bed is the Endeavor. That's not to say that the Carrack or the 890 Jump or any other ship that has a medbay won't be able to provide this level of medical care. I'm just saying that it's the only one that's been confirmed yet. But for the time being, the devs are experimenting with this gameplay feature and have allowed the Jump and the Red to be able to use their medical beds as spawn points. Mainly this was done so that we could help test this feature out. Just how much longer this mechanic will be made available to these ships, or if it will even be a selectable option after it goes live, is unknown at this time. We're just going to have to wait and see. Personally, I hope it does, and that they allow these ships to retain this feature, at least until after some of the larger ships that are supposed to have this ability become flight ready. The Red was originally slated to have 2 tier 3 level beds, that in addition to being able to heal minor wounds would be able to hold more critically injured patients in stasis to buy them enough time to be able to be transported to a facility that could provide better medical care. After all, it's designed to be an ambulance and not a mobile hospital. The Red feels like its handling is right on par with the Cutty's, and it has a top speed of 1,198. It has 4 size 4 weapon hardpoints that are all equipped with size 3 gimbaled weapons, 2 of which are distortion based while the other 2 are repeaters. Access to and from the docking collar rings can be found on the port and starboard walls of this room. At the stern is a set of double doors that partitions this section of the ship off from where access to the ramp is located and where the cargo is held. This area has had the 6 drop seats that you'd normally find in the Cutty stripped out of it, and overall it's rated for holding 12 SCUs worth of cargo. The space is just big enough to sneak a standard Cyclone into it. I've already witnessed a number of people experiencing some major mishaps while trying to get a Cyclone into the back of this ship, but it should be fine as long as you remember to power down the engines once you've gotten it inside. That keeps it from creeping around a bit. There's also not going to be enough room for you to be able to get out of it and walk around after you've parked the Cyclone, which is only going to be a problem if you're traveling solo. I guess if worse comes to worse, you could try and commando crawl your way underneath it. I could also get a Dragonfly in, but you're going to have to push the front nacelles nearly halfway through the back door in order to make it fit. As you can see in this shot, and in this shot. That goes without saying that a Nox fits, and definitely a Grey Cat buggy. And most likely also a Ranger once they start to become available in game. Overall, this is a neat little ambulance, and I look forward to seeing it again after they put the final touches onto it. I'm really hoping that they give it a more non-traditional Drake lighting scheme by making it well lit, and end up giving at least the back section of the interior a little bit more of a white-clad medical room feel. And that's going to be it for this early look at the Cutlass Red. I've been your host, Law of the West. Thanks for tuning in, and take care.